How you doing, guys? Welcome to the second episode of the I Like the Way You Think Sir podcast. It's your boy Tony Pro.
It's Tree.
And we want to get right into this. In light of the whole quarantine, coronavirus situation, people lost a lot of people lost their jobs. I know personally a few people that lost their jobs, unfortunately. Me and Tree just wanted to give a couple of ideas and things to create passive income, ways in which you can gain or invest your money that you do have to gain money and flip for itself. And the importance of that is because you can't always rely on having this a regular 9-to-5 job. You got to be able to, just have other ways of getting income that you don't have to rely on anybody else. No one can ever fire you from that. You know what I'm saying? And that's we've been part of my thing in quarantine was to try to figure out how I can do that. And we just want to give a couple of things and examples of people who've done these things to just share with you guys.
Or what's something that you would do?
Your
current position, what would you do?
So, this is an idea that we've already had. One of the major things that I was really focusing on and learning and doing research, and he actually came up with a couple ideas too as well, is the real estate game. This is more of a long ball type thing too as well. This is not something that will give you a significant wealth right away.
Like a long-term investment.
Longer
return on your investment.
Exactly. And I feel like as Black people, it's important for us to get into real estate because real estate built more millionaires than any other industry. I believe even combined.
Was it like 90% of successful people were invested in real estate or something like that?
I believe something like that. And then even if you didn't get your wealth through real estate, it's something that you can place the wealth that you did gain from whatever you were doing to gain more wealth and create assets to give to your kids. That's exactly what it is. And there's examples of this. One of the more more popular examples that is coming up again and again because of the whole situation with George Floyd and everything is the Tulsa, the Greenwood, Black Wall Street example. That whole township that was destroyed was created through real estate gaining and the distribution of real estate and properties amongst Black people. That's how they were able to create the Greenwood district in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the first example I want to give is a gentleman by the name of O.W. Gurley. This is back in the day when they used to have initials as first names and shit. But you never find this out here, O.W. But so O.W. Gurley, he was
Gurley's a slave name too.
Probably. Yeah. He was a son of slaves. His parents were slaves, but during the early 1900s, because of the Great Migration, and as well as the displacement of Native Americans in the Oklahoma territory, he was able to move there and actually buy land, about 40 acres of land that he was able to build businesses on. He had numerous amount of businesses, bro. He had what's called a rooming house, which is basically a hotel. And that was important because of the Great Migration, a lot of people were trying to move further north or even west.
And was that the first Black hotel pretty much? In a way to think about it?
In a sense, he later on, so that was a rooming house. He then created another, I think it's called the Stratford Hotel. He created an actual hotel, and once the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma was getting more established, he created it in the downtown district where white people was basically saying, you can't stay over here. He created, and that was considered the first, if I'm correct, the first Black-owned hotel
in the U.S.
in the United States of America.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And back then, just imagine that shit. Back then, you know what I mean? So that must have been scary. And then we'll get into what happened to the man. But his first initial buying was 40 acres of land in which he distributed and created. He had 5 residential houses. He had 2 commercial buildings. There was a barber shop, a billiards, a pool, a pool lounge. You know what I mean? He's like Jay-Z. It's before Jay-Z, nobody.
Word.
So
he got the property in Dumbo.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. You're not feeling Dumbo. You know what I mean? Exactly. That's a fact. And these examples are, there's also, we'll go ahead and tell you what happened though. But because of, as we all know now, the Tulsa massacre of 1921, he lost everything,
man.
And the reason why they were jealous, man. People were jealous that a man that's coming right off of, what's called the Civil War, you know what I mean, and slaves were just, recently have been freed within the last 50 years or whatever. He goes and he makes a man out of himself and makes, you know what I mean, and does this. He was an educator too. He wasn't a dumb man, and he he was a smart dude, and he was a businessman, entrepreneur, and he just had that vision, like, yo, let me buy this land that nobody wants. They just kick these core natives out of this land, and they want us to leave. So you know what? Let me go ahead and buy this land, and I'm gonna sell exclusively to his kind. Now that is important nowadays. You can't probably practice those same type of things that they would consider discrimination. But you can also, you see a lot.
I wonder. Oh, my fault.
Oh, go ahead.
I wonder how, because like, for example, with like these black banks, they market themselves in a way where it's like mostly black people.
Exactly.
It's really about how you market it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You're not gonna say no if you're white. You can't live here. You can't. You know what I mean? But I think it's really just like the how it's represented. You know what I mean? Maybe it plays a role in the majority of it involving black people.
And that's a fact. That's a fact. The marketing, you could always market it and say that this, like, we welcome everyone, but this is like, a majority black, you know what I mean?
Saying debit cards got images of black people and
you know what I'm saying?
Like,
you're gonna say it about saying it, you know what I mean? And that's possible, you know what I mean? And people do practice discrimination, I'm not saying that, but are we gonna be able to do it realistically? We may not. We may not be able to say like
total,
you know what I mean? Like,
segregation of
exactly. Like,
housing and all
we
that.
may like that, but you know what I mean? It's just
high key, and this is like a little segue, but I'll come back. Is on someone on a war tip, you know what I mean? Because we may very well get into another physical war at some point. It would be smarter for us not to be in just one area and to be a little bit more integrated into the white community. So because, for example, if we all just like, all right, let's get this one spot over here, it's very easy to just bomb that one spot.
That's exactly what happened in Tulsa. So that is, exactly, because the Greenwood district, Tulsa, Oklahoma was a city, obviously you know that, but they called it even a black enclave. That was the terminology back then. The black enclave was in Greenwood, the Greenwood district. That was what the district that O.W. Gurley founded in Tulsa, and he made it a point to have a lot of black owners. But that was back then. You had to discriminate. Back then, you had to discriminate because they did not want us in their areas. They forcibly put us together. Like, this was not even something that probably was even designed. It was probably just that O.W. Gurley wanted. He's just like, he had to, because these places that were run by white people did not want anybody white people. Like, you couldn't be black to go in there. You couldn't use the restroom. You couldn't eat. You couldn't do nothing. So it was just, you had to discriminate because and you had to just include your own because they weren't allowing you in there. Nowadays, you can slap somebody upside the head and they tell you can't go out there and eat because you're black. That's the difference between now.
Or pull out your phone and record them.
Or record them. I'm gonna do that after I slap somebody. Like, yo, you should have done this shit.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'm there with you on recognizing how we can begin to like close the racial wealth gap, specifically in the U.S. that has mostly to do with us not having investing in property. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you know, it just creates an opportunity for us to have passive income, because once you know, owning property doesn't mean you got to live there. The whole point is that, you know, you're in a system of renting. Whether if you have a residential property, you rent to residents. If you have a commercial property, you rent to businesses.
Yes.
And if you're on that tip, you can be specific about getting black businesses in there. You know what I'm saying? That are in alignment with what it is that you believe in and all those kind of things. Because a point that you've made before is that, you don't just want to go ahead and invest in any black business or support any black business if it's not like, up to par. You know what I'm saying? So we got to recognize that as well.
I feel like that was a shade move. All right,
Shade?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that it was up to par. 'Cause I thought you were just gonna say like, I'm not trying to invest into black business, because that's
no. I mean,
the whole point. The point is because people think that because they're black and then you're black, you just have to automatically go there. Nah.
Just like how people voted for Obama, like the same mentality.
You gotta have, like, if I like a certain type of brand because of their materials and clothing, let's just stick to clothing. If you know what I mean, boom. If I like a certain brand because of the fabrics and the designs and everything like that, yours, if I'm gonna take my money from there and do that and go to you, I had no problem with that. But the product has to be the same. I'm not gonna buy lesser product because you're black.
Yeah, that's valid.
That doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people think just because you're black, you have to do that. That's not the case. You know what I mean? But going back to the
it's about weeding them out. Yeah.
Going back to the real estate thing, one thing I would like to mention before we just go on to the next topic is the importance of paying off the mortgage and giving your kids something that they can gain money from, that they don't necessarily have to put money towards. A wealth generational, of assets, exchanging of assets to the next generation. And a lot of times, a lot of people forget that step. They buy the properties and then they're not really trying to, they take it a month by month. any property that I want to get, and I just want to put this into your heads as well, try your best to pay off that mortgage, because that's real financial freedom. Then you only have to pay property taxes, which is like once a year, and it's like, it's not crazy, but you're not doing a monthly payment. Like in any type of real estate that I'm gaining, my number one goal is to make sure that when I pass that down, it's at the mortgage is as low as possible, or there's no mortgage at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a major key that I feel like we need to. I see a lot of people talking about real estate, but that's, to me, is a major key.
We could probably do maybe another episode where we're more specific on how and ways to pay off a mortgage.
Especially you, because you have a lot of ways. Like, you don't want to put me on the FHA loan. I don't know if you want to go into that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, the FHA loan is something that you guys can look up, and it's basically like, it's a loan that is by the Federal Housing Association, if I'm not mistaken, FHA. And it's basically a loan that allows for people with not the highest credit scores to get approved for a low interest, lower interest loans, as well as low down payment loans. You know what I mean? So pretty much most of them, once you have a 580 credit score, you will be eligible to get a loan and only have to put down 3.5%. So 3% of $100,000 is only $3,000. So if you wanted to, move into or maybe invest in $100,000 property, you got $3,000 and you got over 580 on your credit score, you can go ahead and do that. You know what I mean? So that's like one way. You know what I mean? But again, on a piece of like paying off your mortgage and stuff like that, there's definitely a lot of things to keep in mind. Like what you even said before is like, keep a job, still have your job, even if you're renting, so that some of the income from your renting, as well as some of the income from your job, as well as the income that you have while you're renting, is going towards the mortgage. You know what I mean? You're not just relying on the renters to pay off the mortgage. Like, no, you pay off your shit as well. Yes. You know what I mean? And I think that's really that's one way. That's really important.
And what he just mentioned right there to me is so key, because a lot of times the daunting task that, or the step into ownership of buying property is that down payment. And that through the FHA loan, which you just mentioned, like you just said, it's a 3.5% down payment compared to other conventional loans that may be 10 to 15% down payment. And that's even though you should be able to do that too, because people out here buying BMWs and Mercedes.
See, that I was just about to say, high key, a big portion of this in the black community, really where it starts at, is our spending habits, bro. Like, we spend money on the dumbest shit sometimes, bro. Like, I understand wanting to have the fly shit or wanting to have the foreign, but the fact that we're in a culture of getting a foreign before we get a property does not make sense. Like, why do you want a foreign so bad? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that where you gonna park it at? You don't even own your own house where you got a fucking garage to park your foreign. You still gotta fucking move your shit every
they gonna live
every Monday and Thursday.
They gonna sleep in the foreign.
You know what I'm saying?
Back in the foreign.
So I definitely think we, at the basis of it, before you even think about like investing, is to look at your spending habits, look at your saving habits, and then go from there. You know what I'm saying? And ideally, we'll be providing more information on getting into real estate. I think
we should make a new topic on this. Yeah.
One thing though that has been around for generations, and specifically really kind of in its early origins, comes out of West Africa, is the susu systems that exist, or more specifically to Nigeria, it was called the esusu. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but basically it's a rotation of saving and credit associations. So basically, you have groups of people that come together and contribute a fixed amount of a sum and an equal amount of a sum, and then in rotation it gets cycled out to each person in lump sums, and that's like the traditional version of susus. And what you will find often in the SU forums is that they have either savings groups, lending groups, or self-help groups. And so basically it's exactly what it sounds like. You have a group of people that team up to save together and then probably eventually invest in something together. You have lending groups where people who already have income come together and they create organizations to lend out to people that don't have, right? And then you also have self-help groups where like everyone involved is, and it's more of like a interpersonal thing where you have like day-to-day needs that are getting addressed. And the self-help savings groups basically allow for specific contributors to get funds on that day or that week or that month, and it gets broken off into intervals like that. And I think it's really amazing that this is something that has been happening and it's still happening even in places like Nigeria. And then we can go, if we want to look at in the US, right in the 1980s, there was about 3/4 of Caribbean immigrants were involved in susus, and that's like, history. That's our history here in New York. And I think that is a testament to when we look at, all of the Caribbean businesses that are established. A lot of that probably was able to happen based on the susu system. You know what I mean? Because it's not like they had credit over here or anything like that to get approved for loans and all that type of shit. So 9 times out of 10, or 3 times out of 4, you had, Caribbean immigrants and other immigrant groups that were doing these savings groups and investing in property together to open their businesses and flourish in this country. And you don't see too many Black American businesses, but you see Caribbean businesses, you see Chinese businesses, you got Chinatown. You know what I'm saying?
And a lot of that, especially to me, I was just about to mention that as a question, like, why do you think, you don't see a lot of African Americans
trust,
and that's the whole trust
you,
issue.
You had mentioned that to me earlier. It's trust,
And I feel like before, and this just goes into the brainwashing what they did for everything else, just like light versus dark skin, all types of stuff, trusting the other man rather than the brother man. I feel like we trust in these formal establishments, which is the same amount of risk and volatile behavior that that could potentially happen with your money in a bank. It's about the same in the susus, as we trust the banks a lot more than we trust ourselves, and the rotation and the internal rotation of money. Because when you put your money in the bank, they're rotating that to other accounts, to stocks, to buy different
things. They're
so
investing it.
It's a rotation, just like in a susu. But it's just something that you feel like, because they are a big major establishment, there's a brick and mortar store or a bank that you can walk into to push it in. You feel more comfortable.
It's psychological,
and
man.
It's psychological, bro. And it's like, it's just, you see these other other groups, because they come from other countries and they only have each other, and they have a healthy concern when it comes to their government
community, bro.
Exactly. And we just have this thing where we trust certain parts of the government, and we don't trust other parts of the government. You know what I mean? Because the police department and shit is an offshoot of the government.
On high key, I mean, we have to take accountability now, but we have to look at why that is, and that has a lot to do with the transatlantic slave trade. It's like we were stripped of our sense of community, we were stripped of our sense of trust amongst each other, even on plantations. And we could get into all of that, but the point is that if you look at it very simply, in Nigeria right now, there are groups of people that are willing to trust each other, and they don't trust the formal micro-financial institutions like banks, in the sense of like taking their savings and putting it in the banks. And 9 times out of 10, they're entrusting each other, right? And they have that communication where everyone is making equal contributions and everyone gets their lump sum. And I think that's really an amazing thing. If and just like what you said when it comes to trusting banks, if a bank fails, your shit is gone. You know what I mean? So a lot of it depends on the bank being successful. And because the track record of banks is that they're still around, we just trust them. But at the end of the day, you never know what could happen. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And it's actually,
so it's almost more of a risk to put your money in a bank, technically, than it is to have a group of people that you personally know. Because you don't personally know anybody in the bank. You can maybe try to create relationships, but you still don't know, you know what I'm saying, whoever's taking your money and investing it in this and that stock within the bank system, you don't know who that is. You don't talk to them, you can't call them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But in these susu system, there are versions of the susus where you know somebody. There are different, like for example, in Nigeria, they have the esusu where it's a team of people that know each other and it's personal. And then there's what's called an ajo. And an ajo is where there is an alajo that is appointed. And that's the term for basically that person that is appointed to collect the funds. It's called a lajo. And they basically collect the funds, and they are more so in the decision-making stance of whether or not to put the funds in the bank or not. And then basically also the distribution position as well, was that everybody that contributed, all the contributors that come to the alajo, whoever is in the position of receiving the lump sum that week or that month or that day even, go directly to the alajo. And so it's less interpersonal, but that is almost like a specific person being the bank. You understand what I'm saying? So there's still a direct trust with that person who is appointed in the community. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's really important for us to begin to get into, is trusting us more and less the institutions.
That's a fact. And just because you were breaking down the whole, like the formalities and the rules and regulations as far as susus when we was inside just talking, and I'm just got me thinking, man, the same thing is with a bank. Yo, you know, You go to a bank, you put money to a savings account. Depending on what the savings account is, they're gonna tell you how much money you're able to take out, how many times you can take it out, and that's your bread. And we're willing to rock with that. But then you'll hear someone explain the rules and shit as far as the susu goes, and they'll say, "Oh, that's weird," and that doesn't make any sense. And it's just like, yo, it's the whitewashing of the mentality. It's the, like, again, it's the lack of trust within your own community. People that look just like you. When you put your money into, you give your money to a bank teller, you put money in a bank, the person that owns that bank or that's running that bank don't look nothing like you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about your the things that you're doing, a couple of projects that you're working on, and anything like that. That's why it's so hard for a black person
There's no incentive
to get a
on
business
their part
to get a business
to
loan.
look out.
Exactly. To get a business loan, man. If you want to open up a business on like Black Empowerment, and you go to the bank and you say, "Yo, here's my business plan. I want to open up a Black Empowerment, this and that." They have the right and power to say, "Yo, we don't want to grant you this business loan." But if you work with a susu, now you're working with people that look like you, that have the same kind of motives and ideas that you have. So and you don't have to do no convincing, because you're in a certain thing is the money's just circulating amongst each other.
And there's no, like you said, with banks you have stuff like that happen. You got fees and all, and withdrawal, overdraft, all these kind of things. That kind of stuff just doesn't really happen. The worst case scenario, even in the modern susu, is that you get your initial contribution back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If not, you double it. You know what I mean?
And it's just practices trust amongst each other, man. We gotta just do that.
Yes.
We gotta practice that amongst each other.
Because even the people who are the most successful when it comes to financial shit, white people, at least in the U.S., they do this shit in different forms. Very often you'll see a group of white people who've gotten to a certain point, and they pull all their money together and invest in something, and then when whenever the return comes, they split it. It's not the same as like a rotation kind of thing where everybody gets a lump sum at a certain point, but it's still in the mindset of, hey, we're going to trust each other. And, of course, with, white organizations, they got contracts, illegal and everything else, but it's still the same format of pooling money, investing it, splitting the profit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So with a susu, it's a different system. And the modern susus, that I've come across, like these flower systems that are really cool, is where you put in initial contribution one time. And then there's an incentive to bring other individuals to do the same, and ideally family and people that and friends, and not just like randoms or trying to get leads and stuff like that, and the marketing headspace of that, but more so just people that and that you trust, again on a trust tip, and within a month or so, you get triple or double or quadruple back your initial contribution, and you just keep your initial contribution there instead of taking it back. Yeah. So you're only really doing a one-time contribution, and then you just keep re-gifting or re-contributing that contribution when you get it back. And then that system is literally happening right now. They call flower susus.
Exactly.
And people are getting paid $3,500, $7,000 in gift money, just without having to sell no products, without having to invest in nothing. It's literally just a gifting, non-taxable freaking a situation of passive income.
One thing I'll mention is that it's sad though, like we have to really convince our own people about this not being a scheme, because a lot of our people are participating in formal establishments in America that are actual schemes. Quote unquote, college could be considered a scheme. Yep. Where if you don't really need to go to college for that, you're still pushed into the college system because it creates them money for the establishment. And you're a willing participant in the actual scheme, but you're not even willing to listen to another type of form of rotational wealth gathering. That's what I like to call it, rotational wealth gathering.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
You can trademark that, TM.
Yo, and it's like, you're not willing to even sit down and talk. You'll write it off right away, but you'll go ahead and go to fucking college and spend $30,000 a year on a fucking, I don't even know, some bullshit degree.
I mean, I feel like you need that. There's an age thing there too. I feel like maybe
facts.
This is what's funny, because normally you will find that older generations are stuck in their ways and they don't want to, do certain stuff. Like, however, when you look at susu specifically, older generations been on that, and it's the younger generations that are like, we missing out. And some of that, we could say has to do with maybe our elders not informing us on it, or not letting us know that that's kind of part of the, what it is that they did just to provide for us and shit like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in a weird way, older generations are probably more likely to get involved in susus than younger generations are. So we need to look at that, because it's like, if our parents were able to provide for us because they were involved in susus, why the fuck would we not do it? and try to provide for our kids or generations down the line.
Part of it too that I feel like some of us think we too smart. Like it also is like a barrage of information. You get so much information because of the age of the internet that a lot of shit just get put in the back burner.
And like you said, the whole environment and atmosphere of pyramid schemes now, where it's like all of these different things that involve, getting more people to join and getting commission and those kind of things, and the fact that there's always a person at the top that's getting more, and people at the bottom that are not getting more have to put in more work than the person that at the top did. You know what I mean? And those are pyramid schemes. However, with at least with the modern susus that I've learned about, it's not that. It's really not that, because every individual is getting the same amount of income. And the only way for someone to be getting more is if maybe they're in multiple different susus, which is still not, it's a pyramid because you have to get other people to involve, but there's a point where it can stop and it can lock and you have to get anyone else. And you guys could, maybe look that up on your own to look into susus. And me personally, like I'm only interested in really informing my family and people that I trust right now on those specifically that kind of stuff. But you could do your own research. You can look up flower susus and find it easily.
And take it seriously. Look at it just like you would look at a banking account or do stocks, because it's just that same type of thing. Like, I feel like don't come out of it with some weird ass mentality. You got to go out there with a clean slate and just soak in information. You don't have to we're not trying to convince anybody to join the susu or anything. Mm-hmm. We're trying to keep people aware of the different options that you may have.
Just inform yourself.
Informal or formal versions. You know what I mean? Because getting to another formal form of getting income, just getting to stocks. That's into society. That's in that power structure that we unfortunately have to live within, and that's another way to just place your money. And it's kind of like I consider it like a bank account. Every week I just put some money in there, and it does go up and down depending on, especially in these weird times. But one thing that I've learned through just history of reading books is just that whenever there's a catastrophe or some kind of form of devastation, whether it be through the banking crisis or the Great Depression or pandemics. Well, right now this is a pandemic, and it creates opportunity for people who were I wasn't necessarily prepared for the pandemic as far as having a great lump sum of money. I did have money put aside, but that was for necessities. But through the unemployment money I was getting, I was putting money away to the stocks because I seen that boom, this is an opportunity where companies' stock prices are dropping. And it's taking a risk. It's just like anything in life, you got to take a risk. And it's allowing me to jump into the stock market at this time where a lot of prices for stocks are going down. And these are things that people need to be aware of. And I did see what was encouraging and what I would like to see, just give it on a positive note, is that we do see, at least me personally, seeing a lot of people asking about, who's jumping in stocks? Does anybody have any idea?
What percentage that you pulled up, right?
Well, exactly, yes. In 2017, it said 67% of African Americans making less than $50,000 had stocks. So boom, we're getting there. And this is we're just trying to keep the ball rolling, because this momentum, just like with the George Floyd protest, we got to keep this momentum that we have. I really feel I don't know how you feel, but I really feel like we in a different time right now, yo.
This generation is not going to let certain shit rock.
We gonna change some shit. We shaking it.
This is the spark. We're in the spark.
Where the pop say we gonna shake the room.
Yeah, we're gonna shake the room right now. This is the spark for the flames right now. You know what I'm saying? The generation after ours, probably, or the generation that's coming up right now,
they're gonna be crazy.
They're gonna be the flames.
What?
You understand what I'm saying? Especially if we do our part to educate and inform them. And we even still with social media now and internet, all they gotta do is scroll. You know what I'm saying? We could tell them, but they could scroll too. Yeah, so at the end of the day, and there's a lot of misinformation out there too. But we definitely can be intentional about informing each other, and that's exactly what this podcast is for. Is not only just we're gonna be talking about other things and entertainment and music and all that kind of stuff, but considering the times we're in right now, we find it very important for our first few episodes to be specific about helping our people with just information.
Exactly.
And having conversations too. We want you guys to talk to us in the comments and let us know what you think about the stuff we're saying, how we can even improve and other things like that, but also just bringing your ideas and your information to the table so that it can be just shared amongst the community. Closing point, man, title as it reads is Eco-Rona, and pretty much these are just the things we're talking about are ways for people, all people of course, but especially people in the Black community, to look at how they can create other means of income, passive income for themselves. You know what I mean? Whether that be through getting involved in a susu, getting involved in real estate, getting involved in stocks, and you know, or even trying to, you know, map out a way where that all flows in kind of that order. If you get involved in a susu, you can start saving up some of that bread. Then you can put some of it in stock, put some of it in real estate.
Facts.
That's literally a system right there.
We didn't think, yeah, that's facts.
So, you know,
That was off the cuff too, right there.
yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, you know, this is our second episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Tree.
Boy, Tony Pearl.
See you guys next time.
Peace.